Meg Price Audio. Hear it, feel it, know it. Angela Cagle looked from her friend to her son sitting cross-legged in the corner of the cold, dark room where he worked feverishly on his newest tower. She tried unsuccessfully to suppress a shudder from the all-too-familiar statement she just heard. How many times in the past 14 years had they suddenly been forced to move, often because of similar news? Funny, she thought. Even though we've lived in this room for weeks, it still smells like dust and stale air. And now it sounded like they needed to move again. After a couple deep breaths, she asked, "Was it a man or a woman asking about me?" "Man," came the laconic reply from Pendra, who ran the local food exchange where all of the artist community members shopped. Angela pulled out a cell phone from the back pocket of her worn jeans, flicked it on, and went to the photo section. After searching through the files, she showed the photo to her friend. "Was it either of these men?" she asked as she held her breath. Pendra glanced at the image. "Nope." "Okay, that's good," Angie thought. She flicked to the next picture. "How about this one?" "Nope again." Pendra replied, then asked, "Are you on the lam?" "You could say that," Angie replied evasively, flicking through to the next picture. "How about this one?" Pendra studied the picture a bit more closely before replying. "No, not really. He's dressed kind of the same, but no, that's not the guy. In fact, it's his dress that made me suspicious. All casual and plain until you get down to the shoes, spit shined where you can see yourself in them. Oh, and he appeared to be missing part of his right ear. Know anyone like that?" "No." Angie shook her head. "Damn. What's wrong?" Pendra asked, a worried look growing on her face. "Someone new has joined the hunt," Angie replied. She took a moment to consider her options, even though she already knew there was only one course of action. Her gaze drifted to her teenage son, who continued to ignore everything around him but the tower. Of course, the room wasn't much to look at anyway, with only one window that framed a dilapidated building across a narrow alley with a similar window staring back at them. The building was in the most run-down part of Charlotte, North Carolina. Even though Charlotte was known as the Queen City, like many large metro areas, it showed its age. Like an elderly queen, it had grown ugly with wrinkles and age spots brought on by the last decade and a half of economic decline and stagnation. Angie had been told Charlotte was in a much better shape than the rest of the country, much of the world for that matter. "We're all going to hell in a handbasket," her mom often said, shaking her head slowly with a deep frown etched on her face. It's only grown worse, Angie thought, as the wealthy few seemed dead set on bleeding the poor masses dry, forcing people into various kinds of communes like this one just to survive. The sign had read "completely furnished," which meant it had a small cot in one corner where Bobby slept, an old army surplus footlocker that housed their few possessions, including a few books Angie used for Bobby's homeschooling, such as it was. Despite her son's lack of responsiveness, Angie had continued to read him textbooks that matched his age level. After all, it had been proven that babies could absorb information from the outside world while still in the womb, so Angie reasoned the same might be possible for Bobby. The remaining furnishings included a small kitchenette where Angie prepared their meals, except when they were invited to eat with some of the other families. Fortunately, such invitations were frequent. Despite her son's strange ways, everyone had taken to him. She suspected it was an artist respecting artist sort of thing. She gazed at her son and considered their next move. Though he would soon turn 16, with his small, wiry frame, he could easily pass for 12 or 13. His jet-black curly hair, worn long because he made such a fuss when it had to be cut, contrasted with a pale complexion that left him prone to sunburn. "We can't leave yet," Angie muttered as much to herself as to Pendra. "Why not?" Pendra asked. "The dude looks like he means business. I mean, he tried to cover it up, but I've been working at the exchange long enough to become a pretty good reader of people. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. Hell, I wouldn't want to meet him in a lit one myself." Angie pointed to her son, who continued to stay engrossed in the object before him. "Bobby's still in one of his creative spurts. He gets very upset if he's disturbed in any way, scratches and bites until he's allowed to get back to his work. To say he's dedicated to his art is a gross understatement.